It's Taxi Tehran.
So Jafar Panahi is a man in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man in Iran.
Another good
who-
rhyme here, don't we?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He was banned from filmmaking. He was given a 20-year ban. However, he's now made 3 films since that. He made This Is Not a Film in 2011, Closed Curtain in 2013, and now Taxi Tehran in 2015. While he filmed those previous films in the secrecy of his home, this was filmed on the streets of Tehran in Iran.
Love a good rhyme.
But the camera never leaves the taxi, so essentially it's just him posing as a taxi driver. Obviously he's a director, but he's posing as a taxi driver, driving around and just coming across all these stories and wacky characters that are in Iran. And obviously, because he has got a filmmaking ban, he had to be very careful when he was filming this. He had to make all sorts of precautions. He couldn't use artificial lights in the taxi so he didn't attract attention.
Again, not allowed credit at the end or start.
He had to have the sunroof set in the car so he could get enough light during the shooting. The film was shot using 3 small Blackmagic pocket cinema cameras in the taxi to avoid attracting attention, which is, when you see it, I think it's guerrilla filmmaking. Is that the best way to put it? Like,
Yeah.
it's like sort of, it's just chancing it. You've got to be, because obviously if he was caught, then
Well, it's very defiant, obviously.
Oh,
that
obviously,
he's-
yeah. It'd be very. If he was caught, then there'd be repercussions for him, of course. But all of these people that he meets are non-professional actors whose identities remain anonymous. They are not real people, but the film's made to look like it is sort of people who come across him. Some recognise him as director Jafar Panahi because he does have a reputation in Iran.
Mhm.
Some don't recognise him, but as the film progresses, you get all these wacky characters. You get this old couple who are going to do a ritual in a pond where they're going to throw 2 goldfish in the spring and then get 2 back out, like a rebirth cycle, sort of religious ritual, I guess to put it. And then there's a filmmaker who does a film fan who has a bunch of bootleg films, and he takes Jafar's taxi to one of his clients, and all the way he's like, you're Jafar Panahi, I love you, and he's trying to keep us cool, and that's a really funny part. But he just goes along and he meets all these amazing eccentric characters, but obviously Jafar Panahi is a man who's been put under the cosh by the Iranian government, and
Quite.
I don't want to get too political, but there is a lot of criticism of the Iranian government within the subtext, and obviously I don't blame him for that, because
I think especially towards the end, it's not even really that subtle, is it?
Absolutely,
It's
it's
just
not subtle
like-
at all.
It's just blatant.
it's so blatant. Like it's you're basically being punched over the head with it, but that's a good thing. You don't always need subtext to be subtle, especially when you've been this sort of hemmed in by your own government when you just want to make films. But it's bad for him, and it's bad for creativity in the country. You see the fact that there is a lot of subtext of that country through the characters he meets, like the bootleg filmmakers just showing like all of these films that they can't show in Iran. He's saying like, well, how a filmmaker's supposed to grow if they can't see the classics because they've been banned in the country. And you've got all these eccentric characters who they show through their sort of lives how bad things are going. Like there's a woman that we meet very near the start, and her husband's had a bad accident, and they get in the taxi together, and it's a really, really harrowing. Like, she is hysterical. She is absolutely hysterical. It's really, really harrowing. Sort of like he's dying, but then it becomes sort of funny because he decides to he sort of recites his will on a mobile phone, like so, and that through that there's the subtext of the fact that if she didn't record that will of him directly saying what he would give to her, she would receive nothing. So that's obviously very indicative of what's going on in Iran as well. So while it does have a lot of things to say about the government and about Iran itself, it doesn't stop itself being a really funny and sort of just really generally just a general overview of what a country's sort of hubbub of life is essentially in city life. You get these eccentric, you get the old ladies, you get the filmmakers, you get the chancers, you get the normal couples who have had bad accidents like that, which is really scary. And it's funny, and it's a little dark at times, and it's a general look on humanity. I guess that's the best way to put it.
It's a film that leaves you going,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was just it was a generally fun and interesting watch. I like that whole thing that he had to do. He had to be so precautionary. He had to be careful what he did, and it was really interesting to see just how he managed to create that story. Because I thought that we were discussing on the way out of the Tyneside whether it was real or not, if the actors were real or not. So there's always that you're left to think.
I initially couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Then obviously it starts to get quite unbelievable. Like that in the same, because it's pretty much real time, isn't it? So it's like 80 minutes. You kind of think if all that happened in 80 minutes, like you have to get pretty lucky if it was a documentary, like to get that kind of.
It's an extremely well structured docudrama rather than a sort of.
Well, like with Panahi playing himself.
Yeah,
it adds that confusion. In the same sort of confusion I had in Closed Curtain, which we saw in August. I mean, it's It's bizarre the way he sort of weaves himself in the story, and then it all clicks in perfectly.
I know it's a perfectly symmetrical story at times as well, because the ending and the beginning mix in quite well with I won't spoil it, but obviously there's the sort of criminals involved.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subtext in that, but yeah, it's really just a genuinely good watch. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there's certain sadness there as well, especially with the last kind of bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can see he's so happy making these films, even though he's still like they're talking about obviously saying blatant like the restriction and everything. Not just that with what is she again? She's a like the last character used to be a lot
the flower lady.
Yeah, the flower lady. But yeah, there's also some restrictions with the Iranian government there. So that's another aspect.
Was it women attending a volleyball game?
Yeah, something like that.
And they were arrested before they even got in.
Yeah. But yeah, it's strange because it is overall, even though he is making the film, he's still restricted to it. But you can just say he's kind of happy doing it.
And one of the passengers in the taxi is obviously his niece at a point as well, and you get to see her passion for filmmaking as well. And you think like she at one point when Jafar goes off to do something, it's through the lens of her camera, of her personal digital camera. So she's making her own sort of semi-film there. So it's like if Jafar's been penned in so he can't make his creative films, then what's she going to be like in her future? Is she going to be restricted just like everyone else? And
not just that as well. I just love how resourceful they are as well. Like, just doing little bits on the iPhone, her little bits on the camera and everything, and making. No, that's the only way it kind of gets out of the taxi. But it's fantastic.
Not bad for somebody banned from filmmaking.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I really admire his spirit. I mean, I can't imagine much worse, like being a director and not being able to create.
I know.
For having a view. Like, I mean, I hate to bring this up, but Russell Brand's got a documentary out the same weekend as this. I think Russell Brand, he's got his opinions, he's got his views, but he's not exactly. He's not like a political genius. He's a comedian who happens to have some thoughts, basically. Then you got Panahi, who's really got statements and really got something to say, and he's banned from saying that message. He's been censored by his own government. Why can't somebody censor Russell Brand?
Do you think it's the difference between informed and uninformed opinions, or
do you think
it's just a man who's too headstrong for his own good?
Russell Brand probably has informed opinions because he probably read up on them before he said them. But I don't know. I'm not going to get into Russell Brand anyway. It's an awful comparison as well.
But it's really good. It allows you to see the sort of overview of Iran and just a man who's really passionate for filmmaking who goes to the lengths of putting a camera in his taxi and hiring unprofessional actors to do it. And the fact that you have the credits at the end where it's literally saying, this isn't a spoiler at all to say this, that they legally could not show because it needed to be approved by was it the Film Federation of Iran or the government of Iran?
Because it has to be like signed off.
Yeah, it has to be signed off and approved, so he couldn't. It's literally just a title card with his signature.
That's his final job, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you for all who participated, but sadly I could not show, and that's just the final gut punch.
Yet again, after watching another one of his films, I want to watch more Iranian films. Again, I need to get into it. Iranian New Wave, man.
But absolutely go see it.
Well, it has now finished at the Tyneside, but I've got a feeling it'll be one of them films that keeps coming back. So I think we'll keep an eye on the schedules. If it pops up, we'll be sure to let you know, because I think it's very much worth seeing.
Definitely.
It's a political statement if you go see it. Really, it's I think it's really important, and I think credit to him for continuing on with it, because it's what he loves doing. I know if someone stopped me doing what I loved, I'd